Hello everyone, this is TvZ here, back with some more StarCraft 2 action. This time, oh my god, look at that little cute face that Crank is making there. He's mixing, it looks like Korean characters there with normal keyboard characters. It is going to indeed be Axiom's Crank down in the bottom left side. Of course, that is the team ran by Mr. Total Biscuit and his wife, Jenna Bain. Up at the top right side, it is going to be EG's Thorzain. And as most of you know, Thorzain is one of the best Terrans on Team EG, one of the best foreign Terraners, one of the best foreigner Terrans outside of Korea. He has won, I believe, what is it, $77,000 playing StarCraft 2, which is by far one of the best for outside of Korea. And I actually had it brought up here for just a second. Some of his most recent winnings: first place in 2012 SC2 World Championship Series, that's WCS Sweden, and he ended up making $6 grand there. First place at the Esport SM Championship Finals, getting $10,000 a little bit early in the year. DreamHack Open Stockholm 2012 got first place, $10,000 for $10,400. So this year alone, he has won over $30,000 playing StarCraft 2. That is definitely a livable wage, and thankfully for him, has been doing quite well this year. I'm kind of curious to see exactly how well he does in 2013, but he's got a multitude of placings in this year. Unfortunately for him, in let's see, what was it? The NASL Season 3 regular wins, he ended up getting $600, and in the NASL, you basically get paid just for doing basically well in the tournament, as opposed to making it far in the tournament, if that makes sense. Because there are so many games that are played in that tournament that even if you do relatively well, that doesn't mean that you're going to make it to the championship playoff games. I guess it'd be the championship finals. But anyways, we do have Crank going to be going ahead and expanding right here. He did go ahead and go Nexus first. And right now the map is Cloud Kingdom, which there was a post, I believe it was on Reddit, maybe it was on Team Liquid, or actually probably both, in that the person who made Cloud Kingdom is going to be retiring from map making. So that's definitely a big loss for the community, because he was a very active map maker, making, well, honestly, one of the best maps we've ever seen on Ladder. It does look like the SV is going to try to deny the expansion, but guess what? Terran buildings fly, so he's just going to go ahead and place it a little bit off center, can easily lift that off and put it exactly where he wants to. But, you know, I'm kind of surprised that he didn't attack the SCV with the probe for just a little bit. But then again, Crank doesn't want to end up losing that probe. So he's just going to go ahead and grab the watchtower instead. He wants to know, is a Marine rush coming? Is anything, you know, like forward, just a couple Marine pressure or anything like that? He wants to know exactly when these Marines move out. But Thorzain probably not going to be moving out anytime soon. So we're going to be having kind of a standoff here. And apparently he has the rally point of chase the SCV and then go stand at the gate. So this guy's got to be spawning with a lot of orders already. Down goes the Cyber 4. He is going to be chronoing out the Zealot here. This is telling me that Crank wants to kind of hide something here. Is not getting that second gas just yet, though, so I don't think Thorzain's really going to be falling for this. But, you know, an SCV can outrun a Zealot, but if you do not micro perfectly, the Zealot will eventually catch up. Just how pathing works in StarCraft 2, the chasing unit always has the advantage, because, for example, the SCV cuts a corner, the Zealot is going to be doing the math in his head and kind of make up the difference here. But I don't think that the Zealot is going to kill off this SCV anytime soon. There is another Zealot on the way. This is actually very surprising. You don't normally see two Zealots like this early in the game, especially versus Terran, because really what are the Zealots going to be able to do? They can't really put on any amount of pressure. And Crank is revealing that he does indeed have a second Zealot here. Maybe he's deciding to go for these extra units just because he can't deny the scouting just yet. But at the same time, I mean, this has to be calculated. I think what he's doing is working on getting up his economy, getting a lot of probes, and delaying that gas just a little bit. This SCV being babysat as if it is Thorzain's firstborn. It is not taking a single lick of damage from these Zealots. Zealots will probably just go ahead and stop chasing this relatively soon, because they can't do a whole lot. Although with the Stalker now, all of a sudden these units look a little bit scary, and versus just Marines, the Stalker will be able to get a lot of shots off. May actually force a bunker down here, or at least having to force him to micro a lot, which very interesting build choice here by Crank. You don't normally see this early of aggression out of a Protoss player, so I'm kind of curious to see exactly how it ends up working out. The probe goes down, but the Marines are definitely overextended here. One Marine in the orange, a second one as well. Yes, he hasn't killed them off, but every bit of damage he can do helps out greatly, because the Stalker's going to be doing the majority of the damage while the Marine absorbs, or while the Zealot absorbs the rest of the damage. Now, how did that kind of shape up about the same loss, but keep in mind that he did lose a probe extra, so that is why you see 50 resources lost there. So honestly, that's kind of a good exchange here. Zealots are not going to be that good in the early and mid game versus Terran. It's really once you start getting Zealot legs, start getting those plus armor upgrades, that the Zealots start to be extremely terrifying. So as long as he retains this one Stalker, he's got to be in good shape because he can grab this Watchtower easily. He can deny scouting. He can see when these Marines are moving out, and that's not necessarily something he could do if he had just the Zealots left and no longer the Stalker here. So the Stalker is going to prove to be a pest here, but it does look like some sort of semi all-in. How many SCVs is he actually sending here? Quite a few, with no backup plan, it looks like, as there is no gas on the back of this. So this is going to be a deny the third build, which unfortunately for him, there is no early third. There is a pylon set up down here. That's not going to be doing a whole lot for him, but we'll see if Crank can actually pull this off. He doesn't have a whole lot of units out right now. Does he know exactly how many units are moving out here? He is about to find out if he doesn't already know. And the Stalker Sentry is in position. The Observer got to spot this right when he gets here. So unfortunately for him, he doesn't have any Mortal to help easily hold this off. He's got to deal with the SCVs quickly. What he really needs is going to be Stalkers, but the pylon might go down. Yes, it does. The Immortal got to be delayed here, and you can see Crank realizing I've got to pull off SCVs. Just because this attack has so many workers here, he's got to pull off probes. The SCVs are put on hold position here just to get in the way. Finally being told to attack there. I don't think Thorzain is going to be able to make this work, though, because the sentry count is relatively high. That means a lot of Guardian Shield, a lot of Force Field, and even a little bit of extra DPS here on these very weak Marines. The Marines going to get right up in here. They do manage to kill off all the sentries, so that's a lot of money lost there by Crank. And does the pressure continue here? I mean, at some point, Thorzain is going to have to back out, especially once the Immortal is out. Yes, the Immortal doesn't fare well versus a lot of Marines, but when they're trickling in, that Immortal will indeed line them up. He's going to blast them away. No problemo. Double gas is finally done here for Thorzain as he begins to get his very first bit of gas. Does have a third base on the way as well. So let's kind of take a look here at the units lost tab. And once again, you can see almost identical units lost. The workers lost, though, is 7 to 13. Take a look at the units tab. It's 39 probes and 33 SCVs. So Thorzain, continuing that 2 SCV production at a time, is actually able to not fall that far behind because of the use of the mules there. So what an absolutely brilliant build there. And you can see Crank right there saying Marines are OP, man, as he was able to even the score up with that timing attack. And right now, you can see that Thorzain does not need any supply depots because he's managed to stock up a lot of those. Plus, he lost quite a few units there. So that means he can focus on STEM, focus on combat shields, focus on the third and the Marine and SCV production, which is really going to help him here as we transition into the mid-game. Now, one thing I do want to mention, though, is that Terran players tend to be very confident between the 12 and 17-minute marks. And right now, he is not comfortable at all. He needs to get up some sort of Marauder count. He needs to get up some sort of tech. Whether it's going to be drops, whether it's going to be, I would assume maybe mech, I don't know, but he does have the factory on the way, but it is most likely going to be, from now, a lot of Marines. I am surprised, honestly, not to see very many Marauders mixed in, but looks like he's taking a bit of a risk. He's got to be playing it Turtle style for a little bit. Hopefully, he's hoping that Crank is not able to get an expansion completely unchecked. But right now, do we have a starport on the way? What's it going to be at this factory? It's going to tell us a lot about exactly what he wants to do. Although he is mixing in 3 Marauders now, so I think that this is the smart choice. His production can actually be pretty darn good, especially once he gets these 2 add-ons here. He's got the 2 tech labs with those upgrades going. He doesn't have the Marauders slow, but honestly, at this point, he doesn't really need it as much. What he needs to do is find a way to do some sort of damage. There's the starport on the way. Wouldn't be surprised to see him sacrifice one of these bunkers because at this point, he needs the money desperately. While he is tied up in supply, he is not going to be tied up in the economy for very long. These probes are taking their first couple of trips right now at this third base here, and that does mean that he will continue to pull further ahead. He does have Thermal Lance on the way as well as Colossus here, and that does mean that if he manages to get out of Colossus before the Viking production begins, then he's got to do good versus the Marines. But if he gets the Colossus out before medevac production begins, then there's not going to be anything to heal those units. So either way, this is exactly what Crank is going to want here. And this is something that Protoss players out there need to pay attention to, is the timing of when you get your Colossus. Can you do it either before Vikings or before medevacs? If you can say yes to either of those questions, then it tends to be A-okay. If you're getting it after Viking production, or if you're getting it when they are established and ready to defend versus Colossus, then that's when the Colossus is basically a walking paperweight. It's not going to be doing all that much. But right now, Crank is definitely in the lead, but the third base is going to be going down here for Thorzain, and honestly, Thorzain needs to make something happen in the next 2 to 3 minutes. If he's not able to do a drop, not able to do any sort of economic damage, he is going to be in a lot of trouble. Now, he does have +1 attack, but guess what? He's already going up against 1/1 of the Protoss player, plus Zealot Legs and Thermal Lance. This is exactly what the Protoss wants. This is pretty early for a Protoss player to be able to get away with this being completely uncontested here, so Thorzain is probably either going to have to start getting Ghosts or throw down a second starport for that Viking production. It does look like Ghost may be the opportunity that he needs as far as EMP is concerned. Now, this is the timing that you would expect to see out of a Terran player, but at the same time, you would not expect to see a Thermal Lance Colossus already on a third base, so that is exactly why Crank is going to be very comfortable here. There's the stem to spot the Observer and managed to take it out, albeit barely. I don't know if he saw the load up of those units, but this is exactly what Thorzain needs to do. He needs to drop right here, and then he needs to drop right here, and there is going to be a cannon going down. This is also where the Colossus will be spawning. Also, what he can do is drop here, try to harass this. If it doesn't work, stem and run over here as well. Just try and get Crank a little bit off center here, force him to defend, and then he can try and take a fourth base here. But, you know, honestly, Terran players tend to not like the late game TvP. That's something that we don't see a lot of Terran players have much success with. We even have the Observer speed upgrade. Got to be able to keep up with these medevacs. Once that's done, the 2-2 nearly done. Does look like Thorzain having to pause here, but of course, since it's a replay, we're going to get right back into the action. But the Zealots are going to be attacking this expansion right away. Thorzain got to be able to defend this, though. He does have several units into position, but this is going to supply block Crank a little bit, so this is now the perfect time to free up those units. A drop up here must have been to kill off a pylon, but this army able to clean that up easily. Very minimal losses here. Now, Zealots are something that we've seen Crank sacrifice a lot in the games that I've cast for him so far. And actually, one thing I want to say that I almost forgot is that players are just not playing Heart of the Swarm right now. Widow Mines apparently don't make the game very fun for a lot of people, so I decided, you know what, I'm going to cast more Wings of Liberty games while I kind of wait for the beta to get a little more stabilized. Now, we do have the supply depot going to go down here, but at the same time, this shows exactly to Thorzain where these units are at, and if he had a unit in position, he could easily be dropping this third base right here. I think that may be the biggest weakness of what Thorzain is doing right now, is that he knows the army is in the center of the map. That's why you want to be dropping with 1 medevac, 8 Marines inside. It only takes 10 supply, but you can take out an entire expansion. And yes, he will need every single unit he can to deny this inevitable push. And he's also waiting for his Ghost to finish. He has the Mobius reactor on the way that is going to finish before these Ghosts are done. That allows him to spawn with more energy, which means more EMPs, which means the army of Crank needs to be very careful, because there's not going to be any sentry backup, not going to be Archons in the unit composition for very long. Now the Viking production has finally begun, and you know, Thorzain's starting to look a little bit more comfortable here, but at the same time, he's getting to the point where his opponent has a lot of tech, especially if this Storm finishes. Basically, as Terran, the Storm kind of reminds me of Greater Spire versus Protoss, where you need to attack before that Storm is done, or you're gonna have a bad time. That's just how it is, because no matter how good your micro is, it is virtually impossible to dodge the storms of a top-level Korean player. So he's going to have to be very careful here. Now, Vikings are going to get a couple of shots off here. This is going to be great for him if he can start doing hull damage, and he does. That means those Colossus is going to be substantially weaker in the upcoming battles here, and Thorzain's macro is just absurd. He's already maxed out, even after losing that many units in the early stages of the game. His 2-2 is now done, 3-3 on the way, but, you know, in just a moment, it's going to be 3-3 versus 2-2 and favoring the Protoss, and that is not a good spot to be in. The Vikings taking a little bit of damage there, but honestly, at this point, this is favoring Crank. One thing I want to say about Crank, though, is look at how he sets up his proxy pylons. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 proxy pylons set up here, and that means that he can warp in no matter where his opponent is at and get him completely out of position or help get a flank attack here. This is actually something I haven't seen many Protoss players do, because even if you kill a couple of them, he can't stop them all. But here we go, the big attack of the game. Now, Thorzain does have good positioning, but he's got to watch out for the storms, got to watch out for the splash damage on these units, but so far the control's been great for Thorzain, taking out those Archons almost immediately. The Colossus have all fallen, and it does look like Thorzain is going to somehow hold on here and pushes this army away. I cannot believe the macro of Thorzain. He runs directly into it. A slight misclick there by Crank is going to end up costing even more units their lives, but honestly, Thorzain can keep stimming and chasing it down regardless. I don't know exactly how he plans to hold this off. Did manage to clean out a couple of Vikings there, but Thorzain has almost done the impossible. He has pushed this all the way back to the main base. Now the problem is that Psystorm is done, but there are no High Templar on the field, so as long as Thorzain presses his advantage right now, could actually kill off these rocks in a nanosecond. That's exactly what he's going to do here. You can see the Marauder's able to bust those down quickly. Then he's got to be a good chance. The Colossus also out of position here. Could get taken out right away, but it does look like a perfect angle here for Crank. Zealots are pretty good, charging in there, and he is going to be able to clean this up. It looks like the EMP is a little bit too late. The trap has been sprung. The trap has been sprung. Is going to intercept this army, trap it against the wall, and all of a sudden we have an even game now. Although I will say Thorzain, his macro is pretty good. He's going to be able to pull out ahead as far as the supply goes. His 3-3 is on the way, although DTs win behind Dark Shrine. Looks like they're going to be able to get up in here, and these ghosts are completely undefended. Do the DTs go for them? No, they are going to go straight for the main base, and all of a sudden Thorzain realizing exactly what's going on here. Now he does decide to scan. Keep in mind that EMP works just as well to reveal those units as long as you know where they are at, and this drop over here needs to do some sort of substantial damage right now because these DTs are just wrecking havoc in his base. Does finally clean it up, but guess what? He's not mining. His main base is mined out. His natural currently not mining because he's trying to get this expansion established over here, so he is in a lot of trouble right now. But managing to go toe-to-toe so far with the supply. The thing that's making the difference is these two Colossus right now adding to a huge supply advantage. And, you know, that's kind of an interesting thing because, you know, if we get out more Colossus here, then that supply advantage isn't as good as it seems, especially now that the 3-3 is done here. So Thorzain still in this, just definitely had an atrocious angle right here against the wall. And as Protoss, that teaches you, man, if there's an angle you can attack where all of your units are able to split up and absorb the damage equally, then they're going to be doing insane damage. It does look like more and more ghosts getting taken out here. I think we're down to a singular ghost, and that is not good news, Bears, for Thorzain. He was doing well, but now he himself is against the ropes. We do have 5 ghosts on the way, and you got to remember, ghosts are very good at dealing damage versus zealots. They do lots of damage to light units, and of course dealing damage to the Archons, so you will be able to EMP these down with those 5 ghosts. Now he has a total, is it 6 ghosts on the field now? Yes, he does. So that is at least 6 EMPs, a little bit more on that ghost that has been alive for a while. We do have Planetary nearly done here. He desperately needs to get this Planetary up. The upgraded Planetary will help him out hugely. He needs to repair it, to do some damage to these Zealots. But it looks like, no, he decides to GG, just leaves the game right then and there, knowing that his command center was about to go down almost immediately, knowing they didn't have a whole lot. As soon as he saw those storms, he was like, this is probably not a good idea. This poor pilot right here is getting electrocuted non-stop here. So Thorzain, I kind of want to go back a little bit, because Thorzain definitely had this game, and this battle right here, I think this is, did I go back far enough here? I think that I did. But either way, let's take a look at units lost. Yep, I did go back far enough. I want to show you that battle and then the subsequent battle to follow it afterwards, because Thorzain actually really had that game, and I think it's a great thing to learn about as Protoss and also as Terran as to where not to engage and how important it is to engage with an extremely large concave versus this amount of Colossus, this amount of Archons. Now, I want to show you this battle here because this was absolutely beautiful micro by Thorzain. It's kind of a shame that he threw it away here, so we got to slow it down, take away the UI. You can see the stem away. He's trying to bait this army. He wants to engage in this choke point because he knows he can back out of the choke point and then line up those zealots, because right now choke points usually favor Protoss, but in this situation, this angle, it is definitely favoring Terran. It looks like his army was a little bit derpy there as well, not actually attacking from part of that. And even this, a little bit of stutter step micro here to clean up these units is exactly what he needed to get himself back into the game. And then, of course, that mess up there by Crank was enough to turn the tide greatly in his favor. Now, I want to go back to the big battle that happened right here, and I honestly think that Thorzain knows what he did wrong, but I liked everything he's doing up until he marches up that ramp. So let's go ahead and take a look at it right here. He kills off these rocks. This is very intelligent play. It's only about 2 or 3 seconds. And then right here, this is where he is in a world of hurt, because what he needed to do was move down to this side so that these units could not get a complete surround, not push him up against that wall. But unfortunately for him, that's not exactly what happened here. As he was marching up right here, all of a sudden he is past the point of no return. This second right here, this is where he has nowhere to go unless he full-on retreats. The medevacs were in a good spot. The Vikings a little bit out of position. But either way, you can see the attack. The Colossus doing lots of damage, and every single zealot screaming over here. Look at this. It's making a concave of zealots almost immediately, allowing the splash damage units to get up in there. Even this Archon right here is doing great damage, and even at this point in the game, Thorzain is still ahead, but he is not about to be for very long. Keep an eye on these supplies here, showing you just how good fully upgraded Zealots are. Still, the Colossus dealing damage. It finally goes down, but this supply is just plummeting. You can see almost no units dying here, and then he just cleans up the rest. I think Thorzain was watching somewhere else, managing to finally load those up and gets on out of there. But since damage had been dealt, this is exactly where he ended up losing the game. And I want to go back again. Sorry, just really quickly. I find this a very interesting game to learn from, because he went from a beautiful hold to not being able to defend that. And I'm wondering why he never went for drops over here. I think that's something that we definitely need to take away from this game, is that if he was, you know, cleaning up all this army right here, which is exactly what he did, boom, 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 boom. I mean, you know, hindsight's 20/20, but if he would have loaded up a couple units right here, flown directly over to this location, or this location, which he did know about at least one of those expansions. Did he know about the other one? No, not quite yet. But doing the multi-prong attacks versus Protoss, especially when you're ahead, is going to be an amazing way to seal out this game. Now, Thorzain, I like that he was going for the kill there. I think a lot of players get a little too timid when it comes to, you know, when you're ahead, get more ahead. But at the same time, when you're that far ahead, you just got to go for it. So unfortunately, the positioning for Thorzain was poor, and that ended up costing him the game. So again, not a lot of people playing Heart of the Swarm lately, so just more Wings of Liberty, more Heart of the Swarm games when I can get them. But that is kind of that's kind of how it is. So hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.